Welcome to Buster Mechanics, where you find that special little something inside every video game and talk about it for about, 5 minutes? Yeah, 5 minutes. Today we're going to be talking about difficulty in video games, or more specifically, how some games achieve this through empowerment. Now, if you want to look at a difficult video game, you don't need to look any farther than the original Castlevania, Ghouls and Ghosts, or if you really hate fun, I Wanna Be the Guy. However, today we're going to be talking about one specific video game, and that's the Angry Video Game Nerd Adventures. Difficulty is a very important thing to a video game. It provides a challenge for the player to overcome, usually by way of level, gameplay, or enemy design. As much as players want to beat video games, not all players want the game to hold their hand while they play. These players want to be tested. They want the game to fight back. In other words, they don't just want to win. They want to feel like they deserve to win. Most games accommodate for this by offering varying levels of difficulty, which change some of the design aspects of the game to better fit the player's playstyle. For example, an easy mode where enemies take less hits to dispatch or where bottomless pits are patched up. However, there are also games that either don't really care to offer a leisurely experience or shame the player for picking an easier difficulty. These games usually throw the player into the midst of things with nothing but their intuition to help them out. And one such game is the Angry Video Game Nerd Adventures, which, as the title suggests, is a game based off the Angry Video Game Nerd. The game is saturated with a lot of references to his videos, meaning there's a lot of poopy humor. Because of this, the game got written off by a lot of people as another one of the many bad games that the nerd would review. However, underneath all the references and cursing lies a very mechanically sound game, and we're going to talk about why that is, whether it was by accident or by design. At first glance, the game seems like any other 2D retro platformer. You can jump, you can shoot, and you have to navigate the levels without dying. You wouldn't have to look very hard to find the Mega Man inspiration present here, but add in 8 levels that you can tackle in any order, and boss fights at the end of every level, and the game is practically advertising his inspiration. Despite that, however, there's one basic element that this game takes away to forge its own identity, and that element is empowerment. In most games, you receive power-ups as you play. Mega Man gets a weapon after defeating a boss, Simon Belmont gets weapon drops throughout the game, and hell, to go for a more recent example, Shovel Knight gets relics that he can buy in every stage. Generally, this is how games treat the player like an adventurer, by rewarding their achievements with empowerment, and making the player grow from being a weakling with few attack options to being a hulking powerhouse with weapons coming out of every orifice. However, AVGN Adventures doesn't really do that, instead making what little empowerment is available in the game a very temporary relief. The rocks are useless but abundant, the Glitch Gremlin and Mecha Christ are powerful but only work once, and the Super Scope dispatches enemies with one hit, but only works as long as it takes for you to not get hit. As such, this forces the player to get better at good old-fashioned platforming, if only so they can actually progress. And this is where the game's design shines. Without empowerment, the player has to look elsewhere to bypass obstacles. Their only options are to either keep power-ups for as long as possible, or to simply get better at traversing the environment. Whichever one the player picks, the game is still tricking the player into picking the latter. Because even if they try to make their power-ups last, they still need to get better at traversing the environment so as to not resort to using the power-up until the moment they need it. As such, the true enemy here is the level design. After all, even if there are multiple options for dealing with enemies, it means nothing if you can't traverse the environment. Thankfully, the controls are incredibly tight, with good movement and jump controls making it hard to blame the controls for any deaths. However, power-ups only affect enemies, so if you need help with the terrain, what you need to do is get better at platforming. To make matters even more hectic, parts of the game force the player to keep moving or die. This not only makes the platforming harder, but it forces the player to come up with solutions faster. Combined with the abundance of lives, and how quickly you can just try again, this game does something completely unprecedented. It forces the player to get better at the game, not through artificial empowerment, but through situations that encourage the player to try and try again. In other words, this game is forcing the player to own up or shut up. All these elements come together to create a game that empowers the player, but in a different way. A game that empowers the player through very strict platforming, hectic moments, lack of artificial empowerment, and abundant deaths. This game empowers the player by forcing them to get better at it, by teaching the player how to play through proper trials by fire. It gives the player unfair scenario after unfair scenario, and proposes them one simple question. Are you angry enough to be the nerd? Hey there, thanks for watching. If you like this video, don't forget to hit up that like button or leave me a comment to let me know. I've also got a cute little subscribe button now if you want to give that a hit. And of course, if you want to watch some more videos, I've got my first impressions on Alien Isolation on the left, and a complete analysis of Buck Bumble for the N64 on the right. As always, don't forget to check me out on Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr to stay up to date. For now though, I'll see you guys later.